From the CyberHub bunker and studio, you're tuning in to the CyberHub Podcast. And now for your host and CISO, James Azar.
Well there. Happy birthday, America. It's a great day to be an American, ain't it, Mr. McQuiggan?
Oh, yeah, it's real good.
You did not know that. You didn't know that was coming, too. I didn't tell you.
Nope.
Right?
Nope. Because I would have been prepped. I would have grabbed some Americana gear or whatever. Of course, I'm looking around my office and all I see is science fiction stuff. So that would have been tricky.
Well, 4th of July weekend here in, I think, the greatest nation on earth. And what an awesome time to be alive. We're probably in the most technologically advanced era of any civilization in the history of this planet, living in the most technologically advanced country in the world. And we get to do this, and we get to do this, right? We get to do this, and that's the best part of it all. So, hey, everyone, welcome to the Friday conversation here on the CyberHub Podcast. Mr. James McQuiggan of Know before joining me as we talk a little bit about American cyber. Well, what's been in America's cyber over the last year or so? Kind of looking from last 4th of July to this one. Because we all measure ourselves from one birthday to the other, right? I mean, I know there's like this arbitrary like New Year kind of deal, but we really look at our lives, I think, from one birthday to the other, and we get to look at our country's birthday. And let's talk a little bit about what have you seen different in the last year in cyber, Mr. McQuiggan?
Well, we look at getting out from underneath this pandemic. I know we're still dealing with it in certain aspects, but the mindset of the way people have been working, 2020, everybody got forced to work from home and be remote. And after doing that for a year and a half, people are like, it's not too bad. It's not too shabby. And so now we're seeing organizations wrestling with the issue of, do we bring people back into the office? Do we get rid of office space? Do we get everybody to come back in? We've seen some of the big names out there go, yep, nope, everybody's got to be in the office. If they're not in the office, then they're fired. But then you've seen other organizations that basically go, okay, we just want the salespeople in the office. Other organizations where it's, everybody's remote, and then they rent out areas for group gatherings and stuff like that. But yeah, I think, that whole mind shift and cultural shift of people working from home has certainly been accepted and a lot more than what it was beforehand. And so, of course, we were putting all of our systems into the cloud anyway. We were all going, those were all going remote. So now we're putting all of our resources and people, our users, remote as well. And so it's the mind shift of, IT folks and security folks could put their arms around all the physical locations, and now everybody's all spread out. So it's certainly presenting a different perspective, which brings up the topic of zero trust, because now this is being pushed a lot more, granted because of the EO from last year from Biden's administration, but looking to get more zero trust, that concept, not a product, but that whole process of implementing zero trust to be able to authenticate devices and users coming in. And I saw a lot of that at RSA, a lot of zero trust that was signs for zero trust. Increase your zero trust program with this widget, this blinky box, this product.
It's interesting to see how that discussion's evolved, though, right around zero trust over the last several years. Yeah. How it started to go from a buzzword to people realizing you can't just randomly use it, but you've got to come with a really all kind of inclusive approach to how you're going to implement zero trust and how you're going to market zero trust and how you're going to use zero trust and how you're going to manage zero trust. And it's I see a job title coming up real soon, right? Zero trust analyst, zero trust engineer,
zero trust architect, ZTA.
ZTA. That'd be awesome. So, looking at this year,
but then it'll be the chief information zero trust officer. Zitto?
Zisto? Yeah. I don't know that. I mean, I think if there was ever a C-suite title with zero trust in it, it would be pretty awesome.
And you think of the term zero trust. It's almost like the Department of No, which is what a lot of folks try to get away from. It's like, no, we don't want to say no, but zero trust is, and zero trust isn't about saying no. Zero trust,
is
it's about validating and verifying who they are as, who they are is who they are, and what they are is what they are. But yeah, no, I always think of the Department of No and how that label gets stuck on, but it's more of, hey, it's not a Department of No, it's a, how about this way, or what about such and such,
right? I think there's, you brought up zero trust, and I don't want that to be the topic du jour of our conversation today, but it is something. I mean, we're kind of, the idea of zero trust, though, has some flawed concepts that are still trying to get worked out.
Still working.
If you look at the last year, you kind of talked about the office, remote work / going back into the office. Elon Musk had a very good take on this. He told all his executives, you're not working from home anymore. You're bringing your tail in the office. And he actually explained that reasoning. And I'm wondering how many people paid attention to what he said, right? Because he didn't say you have to come and work from the office every single day. He did say that he expects his executives to be in the office and kind of going through things face to face and kind of being able to work on innovation. It's the balance that people are trying to strike that I think is the challenge.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
I also, by the way, I think that the remote work is the number one reason for mass resignation.
You've got people leaving organizations because they don't want to work in the office? Or
I think there's a secondary effect of that. There's a lot of people who say, yeah, I declined that job because they wanted me to go sit in the office 3 or 4 or 5 days a week. I actually think there's a mass resignation as well, and data that's not being monitored. That's people who take a job at a company, but they never meet anyone. Everything is always through Zoom or Teams or Slack. Right. They never really physically hug someone or interact with someone or shake hands or break bread. And so 6 months later, they get a better job offer. Someone hits them up on LinkedIn, right? And they leave with no consideration, because they can be like, well, these are all really nice people, but that emotional, that kind of emotional piece, that connection doesn't exist.
Yeah, that human interaction. I was chatting with a couple of folks at RSA, and some of them were people I'd finally met because I met them during COVID and finally got to meet them face to face, which was great. Other folks, I'd only, got to meet them there, but they were telling me that they were finally meeting coworkers that they've been working with for the last 8, 9 months, year, whatever, because they hadn't had the opportunity to meet face to face because of everything going on. And I agree. I think a lot of folks don't have that connection, and we can talk about job loyalty and sticking around, but when you get an opportunity to go work for more money and it's like, okay, well, that was remote and this one's going to be remote. Well, I'll go where the more money is, because it's all about, you got to take care of yourself and your family and everything else. And so, so I have to imagine that some of the stats, are going to apply towards, people that, got better job offers and off they went. But also at the same time, you got people that left because they were being asked to come back into the office, or they didn't want to be working. They'd rather be working remote, and they'll go find a job until that happens. But I think we're starting to see some changes in the job market with regards to that. And it may not be, I saw a couple articles the other day about, just because of the big job resignation, with the big great resignation, trying to jump ship now may not be a good idea, just because of what's happening in the economy globally, locally.
Well, you and I talked about this 2 weeks ago, right?
Yeah,
we did a show just exactly on how to keep your job during a recession.
Right.
Right. And we're seeing more and more layoffs. Yesterday, one of the top top stories I saw was I think over 30 or 35,000 people were laid off across Silicon Valley. Like between all the different companies, this company had 800 people, this company 3,000. This, I saw another, I think, what was it, a healthcare company that said, hey, we're laying off 1,000 people to save $1 billion a year, right? So companies are going to start to conserve cash because they don't know how long this is going to last for.
It's going to last, right?
Yep. Right. And that's going to in turn mean less, job security if you're in a role that's expandable. It also means that you get to hone on skills, right? And over the pandemic, we've kind of all developed this jack of all trades. And there's something unique about a jack of all trades, but then now companies are not going to be looking for a jack of all trades all the time, right? They're going to be looking for specific roles with specific requirements that do specific things for them, because they're going to have a specific budget for that role. There's not really going to be they don't want someone who's going to want like a promotion in 6 months or a year or two. Kind of want someone who's going to take a role and own it and really craft it over, 2 to 3, 4 years until, they see what's going to happen economically. I think that's definitely something that's about to change significantly as well.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think, as we continue to look back at what we've been dealing with over the last year, especially in the last 4 or 5 months now, the issues going on between Russia and Ukraine, that the unfortunate things that are coming out of that, but also with that came out of CISO with regards to their Shields Up program and trying to get organizations to kind of bolster and strengthen their perimeter, but also their internal systems, going through, looking at assets, making sure you're protecting those critical assets. But we're still seeing data breaches happening on a daily basis. I get text messages from a feed that tells me all the latest ransomware attacks that are going through. And I was doing a presentation at a summit a couple of days ago, and while I was sitting there, three new organizations that had been hit with ransomware popped up on that feed, and it's like, yep, there you go. And I remember explaining it to everybody when it came to ransomware. This is not going away. They are continuing. They're still getting in. And now even this morning, and it didn't surprise me, but this morning, hearing coming from the FBI with regards to ransomware attacks coming in via RDP. When we look at the number of RDP sessions that are connected directly to the internet with no, not sitting behind a firewall or VPN or anything like that, there's about 4.6 million of those connections globally, and about 1.6 of them are here in the US. So, 1.6 million targets for this particular type of ransomware. They'll just run a script, scan, and then launch the attack, and they'll be hitting even more folks, more organizations, because they've got RDP sitting out there directly connected to the internet. So, yeah.
I mean, I think I agree with you on two things here. I think ransomware and data breaches are not going away. There's not going to be a zero effort. There's going to be a minimum impact effort, right? And by the way, we're seeing that from the cyber insurance industry as well.
Yep.
Right.
Yep.
Like, as a practitioner, I'm telling you, when I speak to cyber insurance underwriters, right, they're not looking and going, how do we minimize impact is their question, right? Like, this event is going to happen. When it does happen, how do we minimize impact? I think minimizing impact is really important, right? The second piece of data breach at this point is if someone's able to take data that hasn't been encrypted and someone's able to get into a data breach and get into a database or siphon data that's not encrypted.
Yeah.
In 2022, you have to ask yourself a question. Why?
Yeah. Well, we're asking that question because we've been seeing it for, the past 10, 12, 20 years. And you've got people that are, developers or managers or just folks in general that they have that victimless thinking they won't attack us. We're kind of hiding behind this security by obfuscation. There's always a fun word. But yeah, trying, thinking obscurity, thinking they wouldn't be attacked. And when it happens, they're like, oh my gosh, well, we didn't know this could happen. We see that victimless thinking all the time because folks just don't think it could happen to them. And then it does. And then they wake up. And it's unfortunate that they have to learn the lesson that way, especially when you've got people in the organization that are trying to protect it all the time.
Yeah, it sure is. And what a year we've been through from you think of like Colonial Pipeline happened right before 4th of July of last year in May of 2021.
May of 20, yeah. Yep.
Right. To TSA now essentially coming and modifying we kind of don't know what we're talking about when it came to cyber is what I got from them was we have no clue what we're talking about. The industry's beat us down enough that we're just going to try to save face in some way. To me, the fact that TSA has anything to do with cyber is such a failure, such a federal government failure. And it's a way to prop up TSA because there's been an increased push to get rid of TSA in airports, to just shut down the agency altogether, and kind of move it to the Department of Homeland Security and make TSA a branch under under DHS, right? Which it technically is.
I thought they were. Yeah, I was going to say I thought they were a part of it.
They were under DHS, but kind of make it so that it's just DHS. TSA doesn't exist. Get rid of that leadership. Just make it part of Homeland Security, right? And then just upgrade airport security, right? Like our airport security, by far, as someone who's traveled the world, is I think like we're we still take off shoes. You don't take off shoes almost anywhere. Hell, I fly out of Israel and I don't take off my shoes. Right. And that's a country where you've got 1 million people wanting to bomb it.
Yeah.
Right.
Well, yeah. So, I mean, we can talk security theater for hours and hours and hours, and that's what it is. My wife loves that term because, you go to the airport, take your belt off, take your jacket off, take your shoes off. It's all security theater, providing the sense that you're being protected and things are being scrutinized when you go through. However, when you have something like TSA PreCheck or Clear, where they are, going through and validating, running a background check, and then they go, okay, all right, you're okay, you're fine, you're not a threat. The risk is reduced. You don't have to take your shoes and your belts and your jacket off. You just throw your stuff on the belt, push it through. They scan it. TSA PreCheck for me is, I think, one of the best things that came out of TSA with regards to that's what security should be like. But I have to imagine that TSA, when they were coming out with their recommendations regarding the pipeline, which I think is interesting how, and I didn't look into it, so I'm not fully versed in regards to it, but how the pipeline ends up getting underneath the Transportation Security Agency through TSA. But I would have had to imagine, or I would have expected, that would have been more of CISA because it's critical infrastructure. And that CISA would have been involved, in what they're doing with regards to Shields Up and all the programs and all the free resources that they're putting out there for small businesses and medium businesses, making that information available. I would imagine they would have been involved in coming up with the guidelines and the criteria. But if they weren't, well, that was a missed opportunity. All right. Yeah. I was going to say, there's a comment in there you got to throw up from Mr. Merrifield. I know we're celebrating July 4th, but you know what? Happy Canada Day. I grew up in Canada, so Canada's got a special place in my heart. So, by the way, coffee cup cheers. I do have my Tim Hortons coffee in this cup, and I'm enjoying it. It's every day. So there you go.
Tim, you've just gone full Canadian today. I would have.
Hey, I'm not going out and about in a boat, eh? Just don't give me a hard time about it. All right.
I never understood Canada Day, but I never did. I don't know what's there to celebrate in Canada.
It was their formation of a country. The fact that we have really good beer. The fact that it's Chesterfield is a couch. It's pronounced Z, not Z. And poutine is, a really enjoyable. It's one of those meals. It's one of those foods you want to eat after you've had a big night of consuming alcohol. So yeah, there you go. I said it.
Well, I mean, if Canada's going to celebrate anything, at least it's celebrating it right before July 4th, going, at least we're neighbors with the best country on the planet. If you're going to be neighbors, at least you're neighbors with star-spangled awesomeness.
Well, I'll tell you this. It was always cool because growing up in Canada, we'd have Canada Day and we'd have all of our fireworks and the celebration. And then a couple of days later, America would follow suit and they'd have fireworks. It's like, cool, we get fireworks twice in 1 week. It's cool
only thing. We do it better. I mean, I'm sorry.
Hey,
right? You just do it better.
You got Disney World, and nobody does fireworks better than Disney World. But when you start talking about Niagara Falls, when you're talking about the Canada's, on Canada's side, they got the best falls compared to the U.S. side. So we'll give them that one.
You're just instinctively trying to go there, and Reggie's dying at our friendly Canada-US competition. But indeed, North America has a really unique culture that's so different, right? Like, do they celebrate Canada Day in Montreal, or do they revolt and protest?
Yeah, no, they celebrate it.
The French Canadians celebrate it because they're French Canadians, right? They're not Canadian and French; they're French Canadians.
They're French Canadians.
They make it a point to do that.
I've still got friends that still live up in the Ottawa, Montreal area. So they celebrate it too.
Do they celebrate the French Independence Day too?
Bastille Day? I don't know.
Yeah,
but that's France, not Quebec. But anyway, whatever. China does fireworks, but there you go. There you go. Wait, that's where they're made, America. Yeah.
That's awesome. All right, so let's do some. In the time we've got left, I want to do some awesome 4th of July trivia. Quebec isn't really Canada. It's not. I completely agree with you. Quebec. If Quebec could declare its own independence and be just its own country, they would. And I'll guarantee you one thing: they'll build a huge wall across Quebec to keep all the other Canadians out.
They'll try.
They'd have like a French exam as you come through, trying to come into Quebec. They're like, "Oui, bonjour.
Parlez-vous français? Parlez-vous français? Yeah, right, exactly. You got some questions?
So let's do some trivia.
All right.
All right. Let's do some trivia. Let's see if someone can get this. First person gets this one some swag. First person in the comments. All right. And Scott says they've been trying since 1990. I guess Texas is going for secession too. The U.S. Quebec, it's like Quebec and Texas, right? Like they're kind of like those both. Like they're kind of like their own little countries in there, and they're kind of like they're constantly flirting with. Do I want to break up with you? I could. I want to. What would you do if we broke up? And then they're like, nah.
They realize the grass isn't greener on the other side. Yeah, it's like, all right, we're better staying put.
Yeah, you're much better staying put. Not everyone can do a Brexit.
They're still trying to do it, aren't they? Yeah.
No, they did it. I mean, it was a hard. They were trying to make it a soft landing, but the same way. All right, so let's do some trivia here, folks.
Here we go.
The date of the Boston Tea Party. Don't Google it, Mr. McQuiggan. Don't Google it. The date of the Boston Tea Party. Anyone know? By the way, I think that the Boston Tea Party was the invention of iced tea, and you'll find out why in just a minute. I'm telling you.
I was going to say I was just up in Boston too, and I had a lobster roll. Had a lobster roll there up in Boston. It's quite
Yeah, I mean, because the thing about it is,
what did I heard something the other day? What was it?
Kapil got it. December 16th, 1773. So it was a week before Christmas. It was a cold day in Boston because anyone who's ever been to Boston knows what December's like in Boston.
Mm-hmm.
And they threw all the tea into the harbor. And I'm sure someone fell in, right? Because there's always that one dumbass. And he probably drank the water with the tea in it cold. And he was like, this is kind of good. And then he migrated down south and started iced tea, sweetened and unsweetened iced tea. That's my theory behind iced tea.
I think it was somebody just left it sitting out and then went back to it later on and like, hey, the sunshine tea. And they're like, hey, this isn't too bad.
Well, Kapil got this one. I'm sorry, Shady Dave.
So
you wrote it in military style, but Kapil showed up first. So Kapil, you can send me your address in a LinkedIn message, buddy, and I'll get you some swag.
Since you're talking about the Boston Tea Party, do you know what the colonists wore to the Boston Tea Party?
I'm sorry?
T-shirts.
A dad joke. I love it. All right. Let's do the next one. What year was the Bill of Rights adopted?
The Bill of Rights.
The Bill of Rights.
So while you're waiting for that, do you know what one American flag said? You know what the American flag said to the Canadian flag? Nothing. It just waved.
Wasn't James there?
Which one?
All right. Kapil Harshil got this one. 1791.
Cool.
Yep. Bill of Rights came through. So nation went independent. Our Declaration of Independence, July 4th, 1776. And it took them until 1791 to get the Bill of Rights adopted. Right? That shows you just how long it took, nearly 15 years to get the Bill of Rights in there.
So I'm curious, James, do you know where the Declaration of Independence was signed?
Philadelphia.
No, at the bottom.
Horrible. All right. More dad jokes. All right. Last question here for our trivia today. What year was the Star Spangled Banner lyrics written? What year was it written?
That's a good question. I know who wrote it, but I don't know when.
Who wrote it?
Francis Scott Key.
Yep.
Based off a poem.
Indeed. There's actually a really interesting story about the Star Spangled Banner.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah. We'll see if someone gets this. We'll give him another 10 seconds. What do you think, Mr. McQuiggan? Kapil got it. 1814. That is right. So
September 14th.
So the music was actually the music for Star Spangled Banner was actually written in 1773.
Very cool.
The lyrics were written in 1814, but it wasn't officially adopted by the U.S. as its national anthem until March 3rd of 1931.
Yep.
So, and they didn't have Proud to be an American in that time frame. Right?
No, they didn't. Yeah. No, we got that later on.
That came later on. All right, folks. Have an awesome 4th of July weekend. We're coming up to wrapping the show. Yeah. Get some fireworks. Get some hot dogs, hamburgers.
I saw a meme this morning.
Bourbon, whiskey.
There you go. Get some good Tennessee or Kentucky bourbon. I saw a meme this morning that said today or in the next couple of days, some people in this country are going to celebrate having the last time that they have 10 fingers. Because people have a bad habit of not being careful with fireworks. So be careful with fireworks.
Wasn't there an NFL player who blew off his fingers on the 4th of July? Like a wide receiver a few years back.
Somebody.
Right?
Yeah.
NFL not for long. Apparently that means your fingers too, not just your brain.
So just be careful, folks.
Just be careful, folks. Yeah, practice safe fireworks. Go see some fireworks. Take your kids out. Enjoy the time off if you've got it. And really get to enjoy the freedom that this country offers. If you're looking anything at the southern border, agree or disagree with it, there's millions of people who are willing to risk everything to get to this country because they recognize what it stands for. So it's not about politics, right, left, Democrat or Republican. It's about just celebrating the greatness and the opportunities that this country has afforded millions and millions of people over so many generations. All right, y'all. Have a great weekend. Happy 4th of July, Mr. McQuiggan. See you next time, buddy.
Take care, James. Thanks.
All right. Bye.
We love feedback, so make sure to connect with us on social media and subscribe to our podcast on your favorite podcast listening platform.